Hello, hello. Hi, Bucky Ann. Sorry for the quick exit, but I was late and I don't want to be late.
I've been waiting all year to stock up on these. It's called a hoodie dress, and all my friends got them. I am so jealous of them all.
What is
They always look so...
That's the ad playing. But that is so weird because I'm wearing a hoodie dress. Isn't that crazy? You can't see the hoodie. Here it is. That is so weird. And she's advertising the hoodie dress. Okay, that's beyond weird. Before we get started with the Mackenzie text, I was just sent something from an author who would like me to look at her book. And I've told you guys this, like, I get my biggest signs in nature. I want to be out in nature. How easily distracted. When I lost Ray, that's where I wanted to go, like, immediately. It was outside. Today, I have a cousin that is not doing well at all. Terrible stuff. They're getting, ready for, like, hospice. And today, I had a little female cardinal on my porch calling me. On my porch, on the floor of my porch, calling me multiple times throughout the day. And then yesterday I had this bunny. I took pictures of this bunny. And then we had this black cat come with this big bushy tail into the yard. And Luke said, so there's a lot of animals coming around. But I just want to read you one thing from this book, because I just saw this one thing. It's a memoir, but it's all about being in nature, and that's where she wants to be. It says, when despair grows in me, and I wake in the middle of the night, at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things, who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars, waiting for the light. For a time I rest in the grace of the world, and am free. That's the peace of wild things, Wendell Berry. But that's not the author of this book. Anyway, this Infinite Paradise shows us that the complexity, beauty, and power of the natural world is available to anyone who stays open to the splendid life forms among which they live. Witnessing the Wild, a memoir. I can't wait to get into that a little more, but we have to do these texts now. So, you can hear me, right? Please tell me that you can hear me. I'm so paranoid now that I keep checking. Can't wait to get in. Yes, you can. Okay. So let me get to these texts. We have tons and tons and tons and tons of texts to go by. It's a common theme with her. She is constantly, telling him she'll give him space. She won't give him space. She'll give him space. She won't give him space. He only has to tell her he wants space. She just keeps doing it. A broken record is what she is. Just a horrible broken record. I can't even believe, I look at this and I go, oh, we must have gone through 2 weeks of time, and it's 1 day of time. I just can't even imagine how nerve-wracking this is, because like I know like the parts like with J Bells when she was messaging me, yes, I was going through like grief at the time and she was really getting to be very taxing, but this is just outrageous to be somebody just, it's not like because they're even having a good conversation, because yeah, when you meet somebody and you guys can't, at the time we used to have phone calls, right, where you'd stay on the phone all night with the person talking to them, but you'd be having a conversation. You wouldn't be going on and on and on and just driving the person insane. You'd be finding out things and talking about things. I know it's crazy. Okay, so now I'm on page 1169. That's when he was watching those fights. Let's see. 1320, 34. Let's see. I just cannot believe. I cannot believe how much there is. And Donna Adelson, yeah, I watched it. Really was nothing with nothing today. So I'm going to recap it all with tomorrow, because it really wasn't pivoting at all. It was her friend and then her friend's husband. Okay, hold on a minute. I'm still in the movie. Okay, I think we're somewhere here. Okay, I'm just going to start here because I think pretty sure. Wait a minute, let me go back here. All right, so oh, and remember how the mother said she kept her hanging with videos and things? She keeps Dom hanging with things too, like hoodies, outfits, things she wants to show him the food. Stuff like that. Okay. I just want to get here because... All right, so she's talking about FaceTime. He says, maybe before I go to bed. She says, okay, baby, just let me know. Then she says, the T isn't even working. So gay. FaceTime me. He says, no, not right now. She says, what are you doing? FaceTime me. He says, I'm about to sleep. I'll just text you tomorrow. Then she says, morning. He says, good morning. She says, how you doing? Then she says, I feel a little better. Yo, answer. Then she says, open Insta. When are you coming? He says, I'm about to come in a second. Why? She says, LOL, okay. Then she says, think about me and you chillin'. He says, here? She says, KK. She says, thanks for not kissing me. She says, what a way to end. Only time I'm going to see you today. He said, I did kiss you. What do you mean? She said, you didn't kiss me. You just put your lips out. She says, it's okay if you didn't mean to do it, but if you did, it made me sad. She says, it's whatever. Just think about me coming over. I want to be with you. He says, okay. She says, please, actually think about it. He says, probably not, babe. She says, I'm so sick of being alone. She said, it's okay because I know you need time. He says, then find something to do. She says, if you go driving, scoop me up, then drop me off before you go home. He says, I want more time for stuff. I don't have the time for anything. Time is my enemy, he said. She says, it takes too long. I usually just sit here and count the minutes and sometimes clean. He says, no, that makes it go so long. You got to do something. Then he says, like, you should read this book I have. It'll help you a lot, probably. She says, I don't like to read. My brain is too scrambled. He says, reading will help it unscramble. She says, I just get sad because I'm sitting here alone and no one is texting me, so I just wait. You probably don't know how that feels. I don't know. He says, your phone is programming your brain wrong. Then he says, I do, because it happens to me. That's why I take Adderall sometimes. She says, I don't want to use drugs to fix myself. Then she says, and you're getting texts all day. I'd be so happy if I was getting texts from all different people. She says, FaceTime me? He says, no, I wasn't saying that. Here. And then he gives her a looks like a book attachment, plug and play attachment. And then he says, watch that video. And he says, yeah, but don't smoke weed during the day and be proactive. She says, it makes me feel not sick. He says, it's a summary of the book. She said, I'll chill out when I'm feeling better. I'll watch it right now. He says, you got to have a healthy diet. She says, I have been eating really healthy, no joke, and I'm going to start working out with Maddie. Then she says, think about me coming over. I need help. Where do I get good Jordan 4 retro? He says, why? She says, I want them. He says, which ones? She says, gray and white ones. She said, I think you have some. I really want a pair. Can we hang out tomorrow? Do you want that polo shirt? He says, I don't know. She says, okay, I was going to ask if you wanted to hang out after you leave Kyle's. When I tried on a pair of pants, the thing cut my butt. Dom, be careful driving home, please. It's really bad outside. He says, okay. I will. She says, I'm driving right now. Roads are so bad. Yeah, and you're texting while the roads are so bad. Great. And then she says, and did you see the thing about me cutting myself with the pant thing? Look at the video on Insta and answer. He says, what video? She says, on Insta. He says, I didn't see it. She says, I sent it to you. I sent you it. It said sent. I just sent another one. Are you home? He says, yeah. She says, why didn't you tell me you're driving home? I've been worried this whole time because of the roads. You said you would tell me. And why can't you FaceTime me? Also, you said you'd FaceTime me when you're home. He says, I'm eating. She says, answer about the other shite. Ite? Then she says, FaceTime me after you eat. Nice answer. He says, what do you want me to say? She says, well, you got me here worried about you driving home. He says, I just got home and was late for dinner. She says, oh, I don't know. You still could have told me. I was sitting here like, I hope Dom drives home safe. I don't know. FaceTime me after you eat. Then she puts a bunch of question marks. He says, sorry, I didn't think it mattered because who knew how late I could be out, you know? She says, I don't know. I just wanted you to get home safe. That's all that matters. It's okay. How are the roads? And you said you would FaceTime me tonight, so you better not cancel our FaceTime plans. FaceTime. Thanks. We chillin' tomorrow because you didn't FaceTime me. He says, no, I fell asleep. She says, look what tomorrow is. He said, gay day. It's going to be Valentine's Day. She says, LOL. No, tomorrow's going to be fun. What class are you in? He says, I didn't go to snow. She says, LMAO. Babe, you're supposed to go to the Hackman, going through to pull some shite. He says, okay. She says, why do you just say okay to that? What are you doing right now? He says, I'm cleaning. She says, I'm watching on my block. It's a really good show. Do you want to hang today? He says, I've never seen it or heard of it. He says, maybe later. I'm going to hang with Bartula and Chris and Martin. Are we chilling tomorrow, he said. She says, yes, of course we are. Tomorrow. It's a really cold show. He says, okay, I might have shite to do. She says, are you serious? Like what, babe? He says, no, I'm kidding, LOL. She says, LMAO, okay, we should go out to eat tomorrow. He says, LOL, hell nah. Why, she says, I want to do something tomorrow. Answer, ASAP. Dom, answer. He says, I'm going to be so extra busy for no reason. She says, no, call me. Important. Please call me right now. He says, why? He says, we could eat at home. She says, Dom, OMG, I'm about to be in the car with my mom and Kevin. I'm about to be in the car with my mom and Kevin said some sus. Kevin who? He said. Chinese, she said. He said, it's like a super suspicious voice that he wants to have a talk with you. And was like talking to me too and being like, Dom's an interesting guy. I was just like, what the F? When I was walking out, he was like, it's going to be funny when Dom texts me. He says, just don't talk to them. Call them ugly. She says, LMAO. He says, I don't really care what they say. She said, I will text you. Do you and them beef? I will next time. Do you and them beef? He says, LG, so? She says, okay, bet. I didn't know. I asked them, and they said you guys were cool. F them. FaceTime, she says. He says, bro, just be like, if you and ugly head arse, you can't talk to me. But yeah, I'm with Dom, and I'm not trying to text. She says, oh, MB, and will do. Text me later. He says, okay. Then she says, what are you doing? This is all the same day, okay? You understand this. This is the 13th of February. She says, I'm about to get Chick-fil-A. Babe. Dom, text me. I'm bored. He said, I'm doing shite. She says, are you still with all your homies? He says, I'm with Dom. She says, oh, okay. I got some new hair masks. My hair is about to look good. Then she says, are you going to school tomorrow? He says, probably. She says, okay, after school tomorrow, can I come over, like, right when you get home? He says, probably. She says, yay, okay, text me if you could hang out today at all. She says, I'm going to be too excited to sleep tonight. I can feel it, LOL. So crazy. He says, LOL. She says, it's also my dad's birthday today. He says, and then we have to go to Trippy, Red, LOL. He says, oh, that's dope. She says, I know. It's a crazy arse weekend. What are you doing right now? Would you eat candy tomorrow? Like only a little? He says, yeah, LOL. She says, okay, bet. Then he says, what do you want to do tomorrow? I feel like everything's going to be packed. We should just make dinner here and chill. She says, okay, LOL, that sounds fine. You're right about that, for real. Like, if homecoming night dinner was a 2-hour wait, then I can imagine Valentine's Day, she says. He says, yeah, for real. Like, why do the things we usually do just because of a day? She says, LOL, it's still going to be fun. And then she says, I don't know what to wear tomorrow. She doesn't know what to wear tomorrow. So crazy. He says, wear those dope arse jeans. She says, what? Fines, gray, and charcoal? Then she says, I didn't even show you my new clothes. FaceTime me when I'm done with this B-Day shite. Okay, he says. Then she says, yay, look at Insta. Then she says, gummies, marshmallow or chocolate? Dom, I just said I was going to FaceTime you. Dom. Whatever, I know you're up. He says, stop blowing me up. TF. She says, WTF. She said, you said we could FaceTime for the last couple of nights, and you haven't each time. Then she says, I've been waiting to FaceTime you. I want to talk. He says, my family was fighting. He says, if I don't answer, I can't talk. Wait for me to call you back. She says, I'm sorry, and that's all you had to say. Then she says, I took 2 NyQuil pills, so I might be out in 15 feet ASAP. Oh, 15 FaceTime me. Never mind. So then he says, okay, hit me up tomorrow or something. She said, I will text you when I wake up tomorrow. And is that you saying no FaceTime? He says, yeah, probably. I think I'm just going to brush my teeth and go to bed. She says, if you're really sleepy, it's okay. Maybe for real, for just a little? Probably not, he says. She says, dang, ite. Then she says, okay, babe. Sleep good, XOXO. Then she says, happy Valentine's Day, babe. He says, hey, he loved happy Valentine's Day. And then he said, hey, babe, you going to school? She said, nope. She said, are you? He said, yeah, I was going to go see if you wanted to come over before school, but there's not that much time. She said, it's up to you. He said, no, it's up to you, LOL. I have to leave in like 20-30 minutes. She says, LOL, I have a ride, but I just woke up like a little bit ago. He says, well, I'm about to get ready. She says, FaceTime me? She says, what time you want me to be there by? He says, probably like 9:30 to at least be at Play-Doh. He says, I don't think they care if I miss it. If I miss QR, because I've been doing good in there. She says, LOL, I'll come if you want me to. It will take me a minute to get ready, though. FaceTime me. Then she says, Cam is being so funny. He said, if you want to, I can give you your present when you come. She says, you know I want to. It just depends on if you have time. He said, actually, you should come. She says, LOL, okay, babe, I'm going to get ready really fast. Sounds like he wants to give her a present and blow her off for the rest of the day. He says, okay, I got a present for you too. She says, I got you something too. He says, no, you didn't. She says, a little thing. I'm about to come. She said, there's a creepy guy. I'm sketched out. And the car isn't getting any warmer. He said, is everything cool? He said, I'm about to be out. Couldn't find cream. She said, yeah. He was just parked staring at me for like 5 minutes. Dang, what? So no super good sauce? All these sad faces. He says, I would have locked doors. No, I found it. Then she says, did you ask the worker? I'm so cold and the car is freezing. Then she starts sending him outfits, showing her in outfits and saying, he says, and we'll be fine. You're going to get covered in sweat though. She says, babe, I don't know what to wear. I don't want to be sweating. And what one is your favorite? He says, first or last. She says, okay, when I come over, I'll bring all the outfits. Tell me then. Do you want Charlie's at 4? Pick me up from work, she says. He says, what time? She says, 4. He says, okay, I probably could. She says, bet I can bring you Charlie's if you want. He says, LOL, maybe if I'm hungry. She says, okay, just let me know. I'm going into work soon. Then she says, today's going to be busy. Are you getting me at 5? 4, she says. I'm on break. Answer my message, Dom. She puts like 10 question marks. He says, I was at Rec B-Ball. Yeah, I'll get you. She says, oh, okay. Bet. I'll text you when I'm off. Do you want food? You gotta come soon. He says, I don't need food. You want me to come now? I got a shower and roll blunts for Trippy. Blunts. She says, don't come yet. She says, at 45, leave the house. He says, do I have time to shower? She says, or 50. She says, yeah, probably. She says, I'll break up weed. He says, no, like right now. Can I shower right now? Or should I wait? Do you need to go home for clothes? She said, my mom going to bring it. How long do you think you're going to shower for? A 20-minute shower? He said, LOL, probably. Also, get dressed and stuff. You going to be off at exactly 4? She said, I'm off at 4. He said, yeah, but are you going to be ready? He said, I might as well just wait. It's 3:35 already. She says, yeah, I'm out so fast. He says, so come at 4:45? She says, leave the house at 50. Or almost 50. He says, okay, bet. She says, bet. See you soon. Are you on the way now? I'm about to head down as soon as it's 4. He said, I'm here. She said, some reason I'm not feeling the music at all or the vibe. I don't care. She said, it's weird. And they should have a word hunt game they're passing around here. I don't know, they're doing a lot of word hunt. They're just passing the screenshots back and forth. Okay. And then she says, what's up now? What you up to now, babe? This is 2 days after Valentine's Day, so I guess they got together and stopped texting for a little while. So then he said, I'm tired. She said, I'm only a little tired now. Oh, no, 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 don't do this to me. Oh my gosh, I can't stand this. It gets so temperamental and then it... So this is crazy, and then I have to make them come up again. Okay, but at least it's better than the other way. She's crazy. It gives me a chance to see what you guys are saying. She's crazy. You say Bucky. Hi, UHP. How are you doing? This is that girl you saw in the back of the police car. Okay. Jen Grill. Hi. Linda. Hello. Okay, so we're going to get going again. It's going to load up. We're on like 1,600 pages out of... oh, it's just so crazy. But I guess they had their Valentine's Day, and now we're on to February 16th. And this is 2020. This is 2 years before the crash. Gail says she is crazy. It's too much. They don't talk about like anything else other than, can I come by? Can I come by? Can I come by? How about if I come by? Can I come by? It's like nuts. Absolutely whackers. Hold on, we got to get to where we were. Isn't this crazy? Every so often we got to do this because it shuts down, but at least it's better than when we were doing it on the computer. We can get through quite a bit. Almost there. It's crazy. Okay, we are almost there because we're on 213. So 214, 214, and it's going to go to 216. Can't believe this. Okay, we're here now. So she says, want to chill at some point today? Oh, no, hold on. Oh my gosh. Okay, so this is February 16th. They were playing that word game back and forth for a little bit. Then she says, what you up to now, babe? He says, I'm tired. She says, I'm only a little tired now. You want to FaceTime for a little? She says, I feel shitey AF right now. He said, just go to bed. I got to do shite. She says, what you about to do? She says, I'm not even tired. Why you start doing hella shite when I leave? He says, 'cause you just want me to lay down with you. Then he says, I just got stuff to do for Kristen and Joey. I think that's it. She says, I don't really care. I want to have a little calm time. And I started sleeping when you fell asleep, babe. And LMAO, Joey at another party? He says, I know. I need to give him those. She says, Joey Wilding? He said, and then she says, do you think about to be out late? Because if so, I can stay up and keep you company. Oh my gosh. He says, no, I'm just going to go to Joey, smoke and be done pretty much. And Kristen, she says, oh, really? Well, LOL. I can still stay up and FaceTime you home. Then she says, Kristen just snapped me a picture of her face, LOL. And my tummy is feeling effed, LMAO. He says, I don't care how long I'll be. Just relax. If you're still up, I'll FaceTime you when I'm done. She says, okay, bet. I'll stay up. She says, text me when you're up. She says, hey, that girl added me. She said, you up? He said, I'm up. She said, I left my pill bottle at your house. LOL, it has some weed in it. And what you doing today? He says, I'm not sure. Probably just buying minutes on my phone, then do other stuff. She says, want to chill at some point? She says, I might go to Maddie's, but if you want to get me, you can come whenever. He says, okay, I'll just let you know. I just got up, so I wouldn't want to chill anyway right now. She says, okay, bet, babe. She says, what are you doing now? Question marks. He said, working out, getting ready for the day. She says, I'm hiding in Maddie's closet, bro. He says, why? She says, I don't think we allowed to be here. And Gracie, me and Gracie in the closet, bro. He says, you said bro, LOL. She said, I'm scared, babe. LOL, she said. She said, some reason the alarm in Maddie's house keeps going off. She says, want to hang after you work out? He says, I'm done. I'm about to shower and stuff, and then I'm going to go to the store. She says, oh, well, before you go to the store, can you scoop? I'm really bored. Or after the store, I don't really care. He says, probably not. I think Kyle is about to trip, so I want to chill with him. She says, are you going to trip? Then she says, if you end up waiting to hang, please let me know because I'm down to do anything. Like, I just want to leave, LOL. He says, okay, I'll let you know. And no, probably not. She says, okay, good, LOL. She says, I want to kick it with you all just to show you the vids the girl sent me. He said, just send them to me. She says, I can't. I have some of them. She says, it doesn't let me save. I don't know why. He says, what's that? I think he means say. She says, it just says the date and let me watch them. As for her number and tell her to send from there. He says, what's her name anyway? Is she cool, LOL? She says, let me see. Then she says, Linnea, I think. Linnea. Do you have some dabs? She says, Dom, LMAO, answer your phone. I need dabs. I was going to ask if I could just run to your house and get a little if you're not home. Then she says, okay, I'm coming in like 5 from Maddie's. I'm coming right now. I'll be there in 5. He said, taking too long. She said, I had to wait for my mom, Dom. WTF. She said, we're already speeding. He says, LOL, you don't have to. She says, LMAO, well, I'm coming right now. She says, hang tonight? She says, I'm still in the movie. He says, I don't know. I got school tomorrow. He says, I got to be asleep on time. She said, you can sleep whenever. If I'm there, I just want to see you. Then she says, what are you doing now? He says, I'm at Kyle's. You keep me up, though, and distracted me from stuff. We can chill tomorrow, maybe. She says, I'll just cuddle with you. And I go to school tomorrow. She says, want to hang out soon? The movie is over. I'm about to drive them both home and then I can hang. Scoop me up when you're on the way home. I put question marks. It didn't answer. He says, I don't know. I'm probably just going to brush my teeth and sleep. I don't want to be up longer. She says, you? Sure. I can just come chill with you I don't care that I just go to sleep. I'll dip when you sleep, babe. Then he says, what I've been trying to say is I'll be up longer if you come over. She says, okay, it's cool. Just sleep and we can chill tomorrow. Maybe we can just FaceTime tonight. He says, oh, okay, I don't know. I have to do tomorrow, so I'll let you know what's up. And yeah, we probably could. Okay, bet, she says. LM, let me know when you're on the way home. Then she says, I'm going to be home in 5 minutes. FaceTime soon? Then she says, are you going to text back? He says, I just got home. I'm eating. She says, she questioned, are you going to text back? And FaceTime me soon, she says. And if you end up wanting to hang, let me know. He says, I'm probably going to brush my teeth and go to bed. I'll text you. Then he says, okay, but fit before you sleep. A FaceTime, I'm very sorry. She says, tomorrow I'm going to go to school. I was going to ask if I could come over in the morning, and after school I come back here. If not, I'll just Uber. He says, I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll think about if you do, you have to go tomorrow. She says, I go Tuesdays and Thursdays. She says, I get more work done at school. Excuse me. She says, babe. And she says, Ite, you're probably sleeping. He says, in a sec. She says, FaceTime me soon. You said you would. He said, I said maybe. I want to go to bed now, though. She says, okay, good night, babe. Text me in the morning then, hey? I had the worst dream. You were in it. He says, oh no. She says, yeah, it was so bad. I had like 4 dreams last night. I had one of my reoccurring dreams. I couldn't sleep either, he says. She says, really, that's so weird. Then she says, like, I hate having the reoccurring ones, but I also like it because it's like a lucid dream, and there's always like random people in my dream. He said, what happened in the dream I was in? She says, OMG. So we were going to hang, and you were telling me to hold on and shite because you got to go do something right then. I somehow seen Audrey's private story, and you were smoking a wood with her at her house, and I was like, WTF. Then I seen another snap, and I seen y'all were at your house, so I pulled it up, and she was walking out of your front door, and I worked her, but she was hitting back, and you were just like, yo. Then I woke up. She said, both my dreams gave me such bad vibes. Then he says, bro. She says, I know. I know. He says, yeah, that's tough. You're probably just letting anxiety out in your sleep. She says, it was so weird. I was like sweating my arse off when I woke up from that one. Then he says, you should just watch this infographic about dreams. She says, I always have weird signs in my dreams, like every night. I always look up what they mean. It's just so weird. Like every couple of nights, you dream about getting picked up in a helicopter. It's weird. He says, LOL. She says, should I go to school today? She says, let's hang after school. He says, I don't know, probably. She says, why are you saying probably to that, LOL? Then she says, both. He said, to go to school. I don't know what I'm doing after school today, he says. She says, well, just let me come do your shite with you. I want to hang today. She says, LOL, Dom, add me back on Snap. I want to send you this vid I took of P-Wave. He said, send on Insta. She said, okay, I'll just save the vid. Then she said, did you see it? He said, LOL, yeah. She says, what class you in? He says, Play-Doh. He says, well, I just got to school. She says, oh, really? You went late, LOL? She said, Cam is shaking so bad. He said, that coke really kicked in. Then she said, dang, OMG. She said, Cam scratched the shite out of me. He said, beat his arse. She said, he's being crazy. She said, babe, I'm not fired. He said, I know you quit. She said, LOL, no, they let me stay. Alan and Sarah called me. Okay, hold on. This is not moving now. Hold on a sec. There we go. And then she sends him some menus from Michigan S&P. She says, pick a good bud ASAP. And she says, in good dabs, I'm getting shite from there soon. He says, to be honest, I don't know. All that shite is super expensive, it seems like. She says, it is one of the daycare moms going and is getting us stuff. Then she says, pick the best weed and cart and dabs. And then he says, LOL, I don't know how going at any of them will be. Let me think. She says, okay, look. OMH. He said, I'm so effing mad. Then the grandmother says, Phil took my effing seat where I sit every day. Hello. Nah. And then she said with the smaller one, she talked about Mackenzie's email. Okay. Then Dan says, she says, Dom, can I come over when you're home? I'm about to go out and leave you at school. And then they talk about that, the jewelry there. Okay. What time? She's at Chick-fil-A. And you ball then get me because I want to hang. And then he says, I don't know. So I'm joking, he says. Then he says, let me see. She says, okay, babe, did you see my text about Phil? He says, yeah, WTF. She says, I'm so salty about it. I talked to Mrs. Walsbro. I biatched Phil out too. Then I blocked him. I just heard Fat Asian talking about you with Martin. What the heck? He says, what'd they say? He says, you mean Kevin? She says, yeah, him, and all I heard was like, other than Dom Russo. That's all I heard, she said. He stopped when he saw me looking, and I was leaving when I heard it. Then she says, did you decide what you're doing? He says, not really, no. She says, LOL, well, if you end up not going, I want to come over. But if you go, I'm going to go shoe shopping. And when you leave, the wreck you can maybe get me from when they marry. Okay, he says, maybe I'll see what I'm doing. She says, when you figure it out, then she says, Chrissy made me get those 2 water games, right? She goes, look at Insta, LOL. Showing the little brother batting. Okay, question, what's up now? Call me back. He says, no, you already made me mad. And she says, you don't have to be mad, SMH. Dom, I miss you. Like you think I'm trying to pee you off. And then she says, just hit me up when you're done with sales. Another question mark. He said, okay. She says, what up? He says, what do you mean? She says, what are you doing? She says, Dom. Then she says, he said, I'm about to run to Xavier. She says, sounds fun. Are you just going to do sales all day? He said, it's okay. And I don't know. She says, well, I'm bored AF and I can't find my speaker. Then he says, tough, you need some headphones. Then he says, I can let you borrow my Beats by Dre. I never use them. She says, no, I'm getting a speaker tomorrow. My room order one already. It just sucks on the privacy. Okay. And she's got She says, no, I'm getting a speaker tomorrow. My mom ordered one already. It just sucks. M. If we end up doing sales all day, I want to come, says Cherry. I asked AJ to hang out, and he said he was sick. And then I went to Carl's, she said. Dom, she says, he says, what's up? He says, I'm driving. She says, when you're at the red light, read above. I'm so annoyed. Then she says, knowing until today. So it's just one of those annoying effing days. 2 people, please text back. She questioned, let's see, what did she question here? She tried to ask me what, okay. He said, be proactive. She said, you say that every time. It's effing impossible without music. She says, I don't want to clean or read. I just want to get out of my house and go do the shite like we didn't you see? Hold on a minute. Do the shite like, how don't you see? Her writing is so atrocious. She says, like, we didn't hang out yesterday. It's just gay AF. How we can't hang today. And you take so long to text back. So it's either I'm here doing nothing or I'm waiting for a text like these days. So bad. Oh boy. And he says, you say that every time. It's effing impossible without music. See, that's what a reactive person says. A proactive person would do what they can do. She says, wow, thanks, Dom. She says, I don't care if I'm any of those. I feel like hanging with my friends or some shite is going to go with friends. So, yeah. And then she says, I can just start cleaning or doing work when I don't want to go to work at all. WTF. I have to wait for that to load up. She says, like, I want to hang today. We didn't hang yesterday. And I don't want to hang every 2 to 3 days. He says, I can't. Just start cleaning or doing work when I don't want to do work at all. Like, WTF. And that's what a reactive person does, not a proactive person. She says, WTF. She says, so you're just going to type the same thing? One thing now? She says, read the other shite, Dom. What the WTF is wrong with you? You're trying to make me mad or something? Then she puts all those, poetic letters, and it says, she says, oh, and now you can't answer the phone either. So I'm only getting one sentence and no call. Dope. Then she says, WTF, F, 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 F. Then she says, do you really think hanging up on me effing helps? It makes me sad and angry. Like, F that. You better call me back. Then she says, I'm sorry. I didn't effing know everything I say is too much for you. Like, WTF. When do you make everything a fight? I just want to see you, and you make it a big arse deal. You are so petty, Dom. Stop being mean whenever you feel like it. Then she says, answer, Dom. She says, you should maybe think before you say shite, because a lot of that shite you say hurts. He says, I'm driving. She says, then read at a red light. The F. She says, Dom, answer, OMG. Then emphasized, let me see. Oh, that's emphasized. Okay. Of course, this is her. Of course you on DND still like WTF. And then, let's see. She says, anyone answer? And then there's hobby bags filled with wood. Then she says, you're picking me. So you're making me so mad. Like, who does this shite? And she says, she puts two states, either magnets or like they made them, I don't know. And she doesn't say anything about them right there. She says, are you going to answer now? She says, WTF. He says, sorry, I was busy. She says, yeah, whatever. She says, you do it all the time. Get over it. She says, can we hang out at something, or can we hang out at 8 or something? And then he says, did you just call me off some other number? She goes, I don't know. Then she says, can we chill when I'm home from the mall? I feel so bummed about how you ignore me for so long. He says, so that means I should just block the number? She goes, I don't care. He said, you're very unreasonable. And then she says, she shows him something in black. I can't make it out. But it's by Maurice Shirilla. Oh, no, I'm sorry. She says, how about you ask me how I've been? Then he says, you never understand me, and you always make excuses. She says, WTFFFFF, are you trying to make me salty again? Stop being Batman like that, he said. Please. She says, can we hang or no? She says, Dom. And then she says, really? And he says, you asked me how, and I told you why. She says, don't be a D. Oh, boy. I gotta be careful. Don't be a D, Dom, for real. And he said, and no, I'm about to eat and do more stuff. She says, let me come. Dom, please. Scoop me. Just scoop me. And get off DND. She says, he says no. She says, no to what? She says, if we not chilling tonight, we hang in tomorrow 100%. I'm not waiting another day to hang with you, shaking my head. She said, you make me feel like shite when you do this. Thanks. Like, I wish you would just hang with me, or at least be nice when I text you. And then he says, I want to play b-ball tomorrow, though. She says, you about to make me so upset. Then hang with me today. Like, I miss you. Why don't you get it? Like, you could have balled today, but no. Then she says, and we also would have chilled today. I went to hang, Dom. Why do you not want to chill so bad? All I want to do is hang with you. She says, get off D&D. He says, I had shite to do. She said, I could have come with you, Dom. It's just sales. I come with you all the time. Priority normal. Then it says, like, this S, I don't want to wait 3 days to see you guys again. And then she says, like, you could have just come get me right now. Get off D&D. And then she says, answer, Dom. Stop being mean to me. And then she puts a sad face. And then she says, why you do this to me, bae? And then she says, she disliked, sorry, I was busy. And then she says, nothing there. He says, okay. She says, justice, okay. She says, not a sorry. He says, okay, what's up now? Then she says, why you gotta be so mean? I just want to see you, babe. Dom, babe, please answer. Stop being all weird. He says, I'm about to go to bed soon. She says, really? FaceTime. But you didn't FaceTime me last night or hang with me. Please, say more than just that. He says, wow, you really went on D&D again. Why to send the night, Dom? He says, I never got off. She says, talk to me, Dom. I've been waiting all day. I want to talk to you. I want to see you. She says, I don't like when you're in a mean mood with me all day. I don't like the short replies. I want to talk, please. He says, okay, I will before I go to bed. She says, promise, Dom. Get off and D&D. And then he gets off and he shows her some things. I guess that she's going to put on her mirror some decals or something. And she says, FaceTime right now. And then she says, are you leaving me on? And then she says, figured. Then she says, WTF, get off, Dad. You're making this so hard for me. Then he says, give me a second. Let me brush my teeth and then I'll talk to you. She says, okay, hurry. He says, sorry, I'm about to sleep. I was talking to Gay Kyle about finishing school. Then he says, good night, babe. She says, hang with me today and text me when you up. Don't make plans. I've been waiting 2 days to hang. This is something else. Okay. Then she says, hey, morning, babe. And what you doing? He says, I'm taking a shite. She says, sounds fun, LOL. I'm trying to keep sleep longer, but I can. Or can't, I don't know. Can't, she says. She says, I have a weird dream again. Everyone was in it. He says, what happened? She says, I don't know. It was like everyone was in this big building, and then there was like hotel rooms and a big pool. And the leader guy was bad. He wouldn't let anyone leave, so we had to tell the groups of kids trying to razor scooter somewhere. She says leave, or big cigar boxes. Then let me see here. Then she says, and mini games. Then she says, our team was me and Carl A. Then she says, and the leaderboard had it out for us, for real. Priority and normal. After school, it's a blur, she says. And that's when they're being released after the crash. Okay, and then we have, those lovely things to read. I'm not going to read them now. There's no way I can see that. I can see it, but I can only see one person on that. She says, Dom, you really need to answer. He says, what up? She says, well, where do I get from the disposal of, I don't know, disposal. She says, I don't know which one is really good, so you have to pick it. Okay, let's see now. I'm just going to put that down for a minute. Falling asleep reading that. It's like, when you're tired and you're reading something. I need something more to drink. Hold on a minute. I'll be right there. Go get your drink if you need a drink. I'll be right there. Oh my gosh, I have to stretch my legs anyway. I have to do some jumping jacks. She is like a broken freaking record. Hold on, I'll be right there. I put up a video about the Kentucky cheerleader. I put up a video from this case, and I put up a members only behind the scenes. So make sure you check those out. Last night we watched the documentary on her. Today I also watched that new thing on HBO with Ruby Frankie. Okay. Let's get back on this. All right, she says, what weed do I get from the dispensary? She says, I don't know which one is really good, so you have to pick it. She says, I want to get black cherry cheesecake or GG number 4. She says, or if those are bad, you pick. Then she says, Sherbet Crusher. I think she means Sherbet Crusher. I don't know. Then she says, Insta. He says, I'll look. She says, look, man. She's going today. Then she says, I think I picked out good dabs. She says, can you get on the website and pick some good dabs too? And a cart. Then she says, you're the only person. Oh, shish. I held it too long in it. The doc wasn't, it was all right, but they left out a lot of stuff, and they didn't have like his mother speaking, and I don't know, I would have liked to have seen other people. Okay, now I've got to go all the way, hold on to the, I would have liked to see a lot of other people, sorry. It was okay. There were a lot of other documentaries on there. I think A Heart Made Wise was like up all night watching them. I don't know. I didn't. I watched that one, and that was it. But it really wasn't like, it didn't have a lot of. It ended way too fast. Like, it didn't show the victim's impact statements. It didn't show. Oh shite! What did I just do? No, that's not what I was. Okay. Didn't show a lot of stuff. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. I thought it was interesting getting the word. Yeah, but I saw that. Believe it or not, I saw that on YouTube. And they didn't explain about his family, like which siblings are from where, and I didn't like that. And they didn't explain like Davion. And then like they didn't talk about that Davion wasn't living at home and all of that. Okay. Doodly-doodly-doo. This is for the birds. Almost there. Hold on. We're almost at 2,000 pages out of 31,697. Okay. All right, we're just going to start here. She says, can I get a ride over? I want to take dabs with you. You really went on DND again? You can't. Just say what's up then. Ignore me. He says, I've been on DND. She said, I thought you got off. He said, no, I never got off. She says, well. She says, can I come over? Answer that. She says, I want to take one of those dabs. She then says, Dom, answer now. He says, Kenzie, I'm sorry, something came up. She says, okay, can I come now? Like, I've been waiting for hours. She says, for real, the more you say sorry for doing this, the less it means. You better make it up to me, Dom. This has sucked so bad for me. He says, no, like it came up just now. What could have come up, bro? She says. I can't just wait for you all day. Like, come get me. Bring me. I have the dabs on me. This shite is annoying. Like, and get off D&D. It's petty. And she says, text back. Did you block me? He says, I got to roll through to dude's house. She said, come get me. He says, no. She says, I'll get a ride. She says, I can get a ride over right now. She says, I'm at Maddie's house. I'll get a ride over from here. And you do that, I'm coming over. You're not doing this to me. Can I just come over at 9 when you back? She says, answer. WTF. This shite. So gay. Text me back. Then she says, answer. Dom, WTF. You're effing mean. Then she says, Dom, what's your effing issue? He says, something came up at my dude's. She says, I'm so mad at you. You can't just say sorry, then ignore me for hours. Get the F off D&D. Stop being a D. If you don't want to get ducking spammed, then how about you text me back like any normal person would do? She says, I hope you know I'm coming over tomorrow. He says, oh, I don't know what time you can come though. She says, I'm coming tonight when you get home if you can. She says, and I'm going to go to school tomorrow, so I'll just come in the morning. You need to stop answering. You better call me. Stop not answering. You better call me soon. And of course, you still on D&D like. And then she says, answer. You on your phone. He says, I'm about to go home in a second. She says, okay, pick me up. Leave right now and come get me. I need to talk to you now. And I want to take a effing dab because I've been waiting all day. Then she says, where the F are you? Call me. Answer my shite. TF. I'm so effing mad. I can't believe this happened. She says, pick me up and answer. Then she says, right now. He says, no, I gotta sleep now. She says, of course you do. Of course. Dom, call me. Call me right now. Answer the effing phone. I need to ask you a question. I'm so mad. You're really about to pull this shite. She says, call me, Dom. WTF. He says, what? She says, call. She says, I don't care how you don't know. I don't know how you don't know. He said, I had a business meeting. She says, yeah, whatever. Call me. He says, no, I gotta sleep, babe. She says, Tom. He says, I'm about to brush my teeth and go to bed. She says, call me before you sleep. Insta call me. She says, Dom, I do not effing care that you have to sleep. You ignored me all day. You can effing call me before you sleep. She says, Dom, call me right now. I have an effing question like WTF. Stop trying to get me not pissed when you effed me over the whole day. Dom, WTF. Then she says, call me before bed. Then she says, okay, I'm coming in the morning. I'm not Ubering to school tomorrow. He says, what? She says, what the F? Call me right now. Dom, call. You better not go to sleep. FaceTime me. She says, get off. She puts 1. Get off D&D. 2, FaceTime me. 3, text me back before I effing flip out. Dom, answer right now. Then she says, tomorrow morning I'm coming over so I don't have to Uber to school. And after school, I'm coming back over. She says, if you're going to ignore my shite, I'll just text you. Then she emphasized, tomorrow morning I'll be over so I don't have to Uber to school. And after school, I'm coming back over. Dom, read. Then she goes, oh, cool. Be like that. But I'm coming over in the morning so I don't have to get an Uber. So, answer. He says, what time will you be coming over? She says, early. Then she says, so a daycare mom can drop me off, but I'm going to school. FaceTime me. She says, I'm coming back when I leave school. She says, answer, or at least say goodnight. He says, can it be after 9? She says, probably not. I don't have a ride after 9. FaceTime me. I knew you were lying about going to be 40 minutes ago. He says, I always end up having to do more shite. I finally got a break today, and now I have to sleep. She said, a break from what? So you are free or some all day? She says, okay, FaceTime me before you sleep. And get off D&D. Let's see. She says, I'm going to come through at 7:30. Text me when you wake. Don't forget. I'm going to come through at 7:30. Hit me up before you shower. I'm going to wait on your living room. I'm going to wait in your living room. Please do not forget to text me before I come. Don't you better text Dom, you better text me back, because if the door is locked, I'm going to be so salty. Okay, whatever, Dom. It's up to you. She says, I'll see you at 7:30 or 8. He says, come at 9-ish. She says, I can't. I'm catching a ride soon. I'm not coming at 9 when I don't have a ride. Then she says, when you ignore me for 3+ days, I'm not waiting longer, bro. Okay, unlock your door. I'm waiting for my mom to drop my sister off. Then she goes, okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. Here. If you want to come say hi, come on. Can I go in your room? Dom. What? He says. Can I come in your room? Or can you come over here? I'm bored. He says, no, I'm mad. She says, She says, okay, Dom. Then he puts a link to something on Walmart, and it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And then she says, stop, please. Dom, don't do this. You can't just leave like that. He says, you were making me mad. She says, come back, Dom, please. I miss you. I want to hang with you and have fun, not do this. How come the other day you come over before school? I can seem to not get mad. Okay, this is him talking. How come the other day you come over before school, I can't seem to not get mad? She says, you were mad before. From the Kyle lunch thing. You can't just blame me. You can't blame it all on me. And you came at me psychologically. How do you think I'm going to react? He says, I'm just waiting for my car to heat up. She says, no, stay. Please just don't leave me. Bring me something. Bring me or something. I miss you. And then she says, why can you just keep finding a million ways to not hang with me? And you know I miss you. He says, my car won't heat up. She says, in my opinion, no, don't leave. Then she says, stop. Dom, stop. Please don't leave me. Why would you do that? You're so mean. You're being so mean, and I just effing take it. I can't believe you just left me. You want to know the real question? Does doing what you just did make you happy? Dom, answer. Don't effing be like that. Wow. He says, what? She says, what do you mean, what, Dom? She says, you literally just left. It's effed up, Dom. What's going on with you? Come back. Then she says, I'm coming back over after school. I don't have a ride. At 11, I can just take me home and after school. If you don't want to see me that, if you don't want to see me that bad, stop being petty, Dom. He says, did you go home or to school? She says, I'm going to school soon. He says, and I'm coming. I'm coming back here after school. I don't have a ride other than an Uber. And then she said, come back now. He said, Uber. And please hang with me today. Don't do that. Don't be like that. He says, no. She says, I'm not Uber. It's going to cost $8. She says, when you can just drive me. He says, I'll pay. Hell no, she says, what's your issue? You are so mean. Like, why do you just try to make me hate myself when I don't get it? He says, break again. She says, no break. We need to talk. Come back. I'm not going on another break with you. We need to talk. And then she says, I'm not going to school anymore if that's how you're going to do this. And then she says, leave my house. And then she says, you are not doing this. You better not ducking do this to me. Dom, come back. I'm not going to go to school until I yell to you. I yell to you. She says, I'm not going to school today. Maddie's getting me. I'm leaving my coat, backpack, and dabs here because I'm coming back for that man. Then I'll leave. She says, but before I leave, and we need to talk on this national, we need to talk about this and be rational with me. Answer. Talk to me before I leave, she says. He says, no. She says, Dom, yes, OMG. He says, you take your shite. She says, no. She says, then talk to me, Dom. I'm not letting you do this to me. He says, nope, I'm breaking up with you then. She says, wow. He says, take your shite. I'm not dealing with this shite. She says, what's wrong with you? He says, stress. She says, talk to me at least on the phone. Don't take everything that happens out of me. He says, no, you don't effing listen. I'm not you. Just get in my way when there isn't enough time in the day. She says, you're mad at me. everyone for a million different reasons when I do so much. He said, if you can't just let me do my thing and get shite done, then you're just selfish. And I'm pressed at for my future. And there's Jen Grill. I don't know if no, it's not Jen Grill. I'm so sorry. Why did I say Jen Grill on here? This is crazy. Why did I say that? Oh my gosh. I must be getting real tired. She says, this reminds me of the Seaver stuff. She says, I can come with you like I always do because I don't care what we do. And then she says, I can't let you be alone, but she says, I can let you be alone, but you need to give me time with you. You are alone for 3 days, Dom. He says, not when I need to get shite done. You're not allowed over anymore. And now I can't even go inside because of you. She said, come in, talk to me, or I'll come out in the car. He says, no, because then I'll get mad. My car is on. I'll just leave. She says, don't. I don't want this bad. He says, well, I just turned it back on my finger. It got numb. I want it good. I'm going to go with Maddie and then I'll come back, she says. He says, no. She says, please, I'll leave right after. He says, it's always what you want. She said, no. She said, it's what you want. He said, I leave you alone for she says, I leave you alone for days and then you give me no time ever. She said, call me before I don't have a ride. And then she says, Dom, text me back. Dom, please, don't be like this. This isn't you at all. Then she says, I'm effing leaving. He says, I haven't been me for a while. She says, it's just so sad. She says, I wish you could have said, bye, I miss you, Dom. Then he says, did you dip yet? She says, yeah, I seen you park. Talk to me later. Hey. Then this person says, what up? Then she says, what are you doing? I started to paint, then I realized I don't have the colors I need, LOL. She said, I'm getting my nails done. Then she said, peace tomorrow. Then she said, Bob, and somebody answered that one. Then there's, he says, what up? She says, I want to show you my nails when I'm home. And I wanted to know if you wanted to take dabs. He said, I don't know. My throat is like itchy and I just smoked a wood with Kyle. She says, oh, are you still there? He says, yeah. She says, can I FaceTime you for a second when I get home? When you about to go home? He says, a little later. She says, maybe Scoop, I want to take a dab and kick it. She says, FaceTime for 2 seconds. He says, why? She says, I want to show you my nails really bad. Dom, baby. Let's see. She says, you better let me show you my nails, Dom. He says, I will. I'm in the kitchen with my mom. She says, okay, good. What are you doing tonight? FaceTime me when you get to your room. My nails look so good. When you gonna FaceTime? And then she says, Faye, I'm giving you a sneak peek. LMAO, you so cute, I can't. Then she says, FaceTime me before you sleep. Then he says, you still up? Oh, forgot. Good night, babe. And Roscoe, she says, hey, babe. He says, hey, I'm about to shower. She says, I just woke up. She says, I feel so shite in the morning. He said, yeah, I have a cough. She said, shite sucks. I literally taste my sickness. He says, what's the name? What like you taste mucus? She goes, yeah, shaking my head, it's terrible. Can we chill after school? He says, I don't know. I'm pissed. Kyle isn't going to be at school again. She says, WTF again? He says, I should have just never been in his lunch. I barely even want to sit with him. And Kristen. Then he said, true, maybe you can go to change lunches. Then she says, maybe they'll will let you. Then she says, did you end up going to school? Try to hang today. I miss my babe. And then he says, I got to go do shite for a little more when I'm done. Then she says, okay, bet. She says, what time you free, babe? Babe, what time you free? If you're going to answer, call, at least text me back. He says, I'm very busy right now. She says, okay, hun, hit me up after. Let me come chill since I've seen this. Okay. Then she says, what? You're not as busy? Text me or I just scoop. And he puts another picture of the ocean and where they are. Then there's my paintings. Then there's, he says, let's see. What is he saying? Nothing. He says, I'll be busy till like 5:30 at least, he said. And the next one says, you want to take some of those dabs though and get food when I can. She says, dang, I mean, that's not long. If you want, you can scoop. Okay, now so this thing that she's talking about, scoop, I've never heard of anybody scoop, is picking her up in a car. And I don't know what dabs are, but I can imagine. I'm thinking she's putting something in a jar, but then that was, I don't know, my mind is somewhere else. I'm thinking about a craft. It's so weird. When I'm falling asleep, I'm thinking about other things. That's why I had Jen Grill and I was thinking about firewood or something. I don't know. It's getting like the Seaver thing. But, wow, we have like 50 people in here listening to these. Okay, so let's go. He says, okay. She says, okay, hit me up when you coming. Or when you about to. He says, okay. She says, it's my sister's birthday too, so I'm going to have to go sing happy birthday for her at some point. Then she said, when you think you coming? LOL, I'm getting hungry. She says, text me back. Then he says, I'm starving. Then he says, I don't know. I'm in North Royalton. Probably after this. She says, me too, and okay. Then she says, are you on the way there or coming back now? He says, I'm here right now, not on the way back yet. She says, okay. All right, let me know when you're on the way back. She says, I'm cleaning up my room right now a little. She says, doing birthday right now. Then she says, are you coming? It's been an hour pretty much. Then, let me see here. She said, well, as soon as I got home, we're having a family drug intervention meeting, so that's more important. This is him talking. He said, and don't double text me, shite. It pisses me off. She said, so we're not getting food and doing dabs anymore today? She goes, after the family thing? She says, I'm so effing bummed. Can you talk about it? And then, no, she says, can you talk on the phone? I'm sorry. That's the abbreviation. He says, no, we probably can just give me a little. She says, okay, bet. Should I eat or are we still getting food? He said, eat. He said, I told you to eat before. She said, LOL, when? And what time are we kicking it now? Babe, text me back. LMAO. He says, I don't know. She says, are you still talking? I want to take a dab. He says, not anymore. Just got to do some shite real quick. She says, okay, maybe bring me. I really want to get out of the house, she says. Okay, when you on the way back? Then he says, I'll get you when I come home probably. She says, okay, how many stops you got? She says, well, I'm ready. And just let me know when you're on the way, babe. Are you coming soon? It's crazy. He says, sometime after 8. She says, dang, I don't want to get tired. Is there any way you can come sooner, babe? Please. Why? Where are you now? He says, I'm still busy. She says, bro, just come get me. Let me come with you. I'm so sick of waiting. You say you're going to get me a little bit after 8. I get ready, and then you're not here for another 2 hours. Then she says, I've been ready for like 16 minutes now. And then she says, don't text back. And then she says, really? And then he says, driving. She says, get off DND and come get me. He said, I'm not on DND. She says, I'm done sitting here ready to go because you told me you were coming at 8-ish. He said, I got put behind. She said, just come get me now. I got all my shite together because you told me you were going to come sometime after 8. Let's see. She said, please just come. And she put a question mark. Then she removed a question mark. Then she said, can you not leave me on read? Okay. I can't. Why? She says, I'm effing ready. I've been ready like question mark. Answer the phone. She says, 1 STG. He says, see now? That's when we don't hang out. I still could have swooped, son. She says, what do you mean, nah? You saying times that just not coming. He said, soon. Okay, bet. She said, then just say that. I need a dab. He says, no, not now. She says, what? Wait. She says, OMG, you better not pull this shite on me again. After you told me we can finally chill today. You can just say sorry, obviously, and I'm getting effing impatient. You just tell me you're coming soon and don't get mad. She says, I am literally begging you. Come on, stop. He said, I would have been able to swoop in little, but you always got to push me like shaking my head. She says, Dom, I'm just getting impatient. She says, I hate you. Always make me wait. She says, please, just get me so we can do dabs together, please. And then she says, I'm thinking, really now, what plans don't make me get unready? He says, stop pushing me. The F. She says, I'm going to, obviously. Just let me know when you're coming, please, or when you're about to. Then she says, I'm ready to run out of my front door right now. How much longer you thinking? And she says, sorry, I'm just getting super impatient. And then she said, are you coming soon? He says, no, you're pissing me off. I finally ate, he said. She says, how? I'm not trying to. You never ate. I forgot you. I thought you ate when you were at home. He said, I've been busy. She says, and he said, I know, I never had the time. She says, okay, I really want to take a dab. If you're not trying to get me, I can get a note. It's 9 and I'm going to be so tired. So can you please come soon or let me get a ride soon? And then she says, please answer fast. I'm getting anxiety. He says, I don't want to chill. She says, you're joking. He says, I've been saying this for like half an hour. She says, if you didn't make me wait all day to tell me that, then he said, bro, I didn't make you wait. What were you waiting for? He says. And then she says, you to come get me at 8 o'clock. She says, I got ready at 8. He says, and you pissing me off the last hour. She says, we were going to take dabs. Please don't be like this. He says, I got pushed back a little because of my mom. He says, no, I'm effing mad now because how the F you always piss me off. And then he says, I understand. She says, I understand that you're busy 100%. It just bothers me that you told me around 8 o'clock and now you were just saying no. Then she says, why do you have to always blame everything on me and make me feel like shite? Like, why do you always have to make me effing cry? Please don't do this, Dom. Let me come take a dab. Then if you're still mad, I'll leave. Then she says, talk to me. Babe. I don't know what that word she has there. Let's see. He says, blocked. She says, WTF. He says, a top effing blowing me up so I can't get shite done. I just ducking ate you. Effing selfish. If you didn't effing blow me up and make me LTR, then I'd be over already. Later, maybe that's later. I am stopping, she said. Then she goes, what? He says, so effing stop. He said, trying to text when I'm effing drinking, effing dumbars. She says, I know, you didn't just call me that. And then she says, Dom, did you unblock me? He says, you didn't have to call me. No caller ID. She said, I did, Dom. I needed you last night so bad. He said, no, I mean I unblocked you. Are you good? No, Dom. Better, but not the same. Why? I literally had no one last night. Gracie ditched me out over some gay shite, and it hurt like I was alone. I realized I really didn't have anyone. He said, Kenzie, in the end, you really have no one besides your family. And don't take anything Gracie says to heart. She's not the brightest. And even people's families will F them over. She says, I need more than family. I need friends and support. I can't take the hate. I'm literally sad. I've been trying so hard to get hype and have fun. Shite in my brain. But shite in my brain keeps making me think too deep. And I've been having these dreams and it's killing me. I needed you last night. And you went on D&D. I don't know what to do. It was terrible. I was at a really low point. He said, if you think you need friends and support, then you do. If you don't think you do, then you don't. See what I'm getting at? Things will only get better. Things will only bother you if you let them. I think I got a book that can help you. It's not really long either. I haven't read it yet. She says, don't I try so hard with a lot of shite when you feel like they real? She says, I can try reading, but shite makes me feel weird. He says, see, you got to get out of those mindsets. You've been in the wrong mindset for too long. You got to think like me and grab life by the balls. And only you have control over your brain. She says, it's so hard to change something that's been built into your brain since you were little. He says, nah. She says, and LMAO, grab by the balls. He says, that's what you think. He says, stop telling yourself that. Then he said, she says, it's harder than you think. He said, you have control. She says, I feel like I have none. He said, not over everything. He said, but you do over your brain. It's because you tell yourself that you don't. And please, really, take my advice. I'm not going to keep giving it. She says, I don't know, Dom. I'll try. But shites, just not felt the same. He says, if I give you the book, read it. Read it twice. If you have to, read it 3 times. Underline shite that UFW. Or write it down. I'll use post-it notes, she said. Psychological books make me feel bad about myself or like weird. I don't know, she said. I can get 6:30 if you want to take dabs and talk about shite, and you can give me the book. We can. See, if they make you feel bad or weird, then you need to change something, he says. And he says, all you're doing is limiting yourself. She says, it's not like guilt. It'll just make me feel weird. She says, it's so hard for me to change something sometimes. I just give up because I just feel like I can't. I feel like I'm just hated on every day for nothing. He said, if you feel like you can't, then you can't. But the key is you can make yourself feel like you can. She says, I tell myself I can, and then I end up not being able to. Then she says, like, I just haven't been the same. Extra quiet. And my anxiety's been so bad. She's extra quiet. He says, it's because you tell yourself that. She says, do you feel like you have to be high to do certain things? She says, like, I don't ever want to smoke. Like, I only do it because they doing it like shite, just not feeling right. Then she says, the dreams just make my day weird from the start because I just want to know what they mean. He says, your dreams is just a release of your emotions. You have anxiety, so it's in your dreams too. Then she says, it's never been like this, Dom. He says, Kenzie, look, I'll make it straightforward and simple. Stop effing complaining. You gotta deal with shite sometimes. Yeah, life's tough, but you're gonna get through it. And if you just learn to not give a F, you're going to be way better off, because the harsh reality is life isn't fair for everyone. But if you learn to deal with it, you'll be way happier. Think about it. There's probably hobos living in poverty somehow who are way happier. And then he says, and if you can't get that, you need to not talk to me till you get that. She says, I'm trying to get a different mindset. I'm starting, but it's just been weird. It's hard to understand. He says, screenshot that and effing make it your screensaver if you have to. She says, I do not want to do that. He says, and stop making effing excuses and complaining. You're not effing 5. Then he says, I'm not being mean. This is constructive criticism. From what I see, you're not going to go get anywhere. Then she says, I'm going to get somewhere, Dom. I'm just having a hard time. Like, I don't know how you would not know if you have seen me. It's super hard to change something that you're used to. It just takes time. And he says, it's been effing 2 days. I haven't seen my grandma in effing 3 years. Stop effing making excuses and stop giving AF. He said, I literally just told you to stop making excuses and complaining, and that's all you do. These last 2 messages, get your effing mind right before you F yourself over. She says, it's not complaining, it's how I feel. I don't need you yelling at me. I want you to be nice about it. He said, you're complaining again and making excuses. See, you don't understand. Reread these messages and stop being an effing 5-year-old. If I give you advice, take it, he said. And then, let's see, he said, stop effing complaining and making excuses and stop giving AF. If you can't control it, then don't give an F about it. Last time I'm saying it, okay? She says, I don't even know what to say. He says, you say okay. You say okay, I'm going to do that. I'm going to change my life for the better and live as an effing boss till I die. You know who's a boss? Me. He says, so do what I effing say if you want to be a boss. You're the only person I'm going to give this advice to. Anyone else should pay me. Do you understand now? Or at least on track to understanding? She says, I'm taking your advice. He said, you see, that made me so happy. He says, I could shed a tear. I'm proud of you, he says. You can do it. He says, please make sure to remember. Write it down if you have to. He says, I live more life than any 18-year-old I know. I beat addiction like 3 times. And the hardest part about my addictions is I didn't know I was addicted. If I can do that, you can do anything. I've been borderline crazy my whole life. I've never been okay, he said. She said, you're one of the strongest people I know, Dom. He said, how you think I'm doing so good now? I got guns pointed to my face, and I'm still unfazed. He said, I even tried to swing on the dude. You don't give AF. She says, what do you mean I don't give AF? He said, not period. You gotta care about some shite, but you can't control it, then don't give AF. I was telling you not to give an F. And then he gives her a book that says The Art of Not Giving an F. You gonna read this shite? She says, if I do, you gotta be there for me, Dom. He says, no, I don't. You have to be there for yourself. I can die tomorrow. Oh boy. Your mom could die. Your dad, your whole family. Who effing knows? She says, I don't want to go through this alone, babe. He says, you're not always going to have people there for you. Don't expect it or care. She says, I don't like to think about people dying. He says, I'm going through my own stuff alone. It's reality. Anyone can die. Lots of people I know have died, he says. She says, everyone knows people that died. She says, I get off at 6:30. What are you doing tonight? He says, I don't know. I'm chilling with AJ and Carl for a little. I'll probably be busy, for real. She says, try to chill with me. I want to hang with you. Just a little time for me. I can maybe bring you food. Probably not, my B. Dom, bro, you haven't seen me in days. Don't be like this. Try for me. You don't even need to try hard. I miss my babe lots. He says, no, we can't, my B. She says, shaking my effing head. Okay, let's see. You give time to everyone but me, and it's effing BS. You can't just keep doing this to me. Stop complaining, he said. Stop making time for everyone else but me. It's literally not okay, she says. You tell me to change in hella ways, and then you can't even come chill with me. He says, yeah, I can't chill with you till you change your attitude. That's why you need the book. She says, if you think that's going to help, you're crazy. If I'm getting the book, I'm coming over. No, he says. I'm not. I'm an effing genius. Then she says, like, you really be making time for people that just be using you most of the time. I don't think geniuses are mean to their babes. He says, blocked again. She says, it was a joke, LOL. Chill out. He says, no, it's not. You blocked. She says, don't, bro. Don't you get mad. Don't you get mad. Dom, you get mad too fast. Did you unblock? Ite. Am I unblocked? He says, yes. She says, Ite, you better stop being weird around me. It makes me sad. He said, I'm not trying to. She says, you just be walking away from me when I try to be around you, and I want to party with you. Like, I want to be around you. And then she says, babe, what are you doing? Where are you? Where are you? He says, what are you doing now? She says, I'm waiting for you, babe. Where are you at? She says, babe, when you coming up? Dom, LOL. I'm gonna in your room. Is everything good, LMAO? Yo, do you hear? She says. He says, what's going on? She says, bro, did Kyle hit her? It's loud AF. She said, I just went down. What's happening? He said, is everyone still in the bathroom? She says, yeah, they're coming out. Me, Maddie left, so everyone did. He said, okay, wait a little and sneak back up and grab the bottle and come to us. She says, where's the bottle? He says, it's up here. She says, waffles with chocolate chips? He says, sure. She says, or pancakes. He says, yeah, we can do that. Then she says, bet. Be right back. He said, which one? She said, whatever. She says, I don't care. I hope I have time to eat one. You pick because I might not have time to eat. When you're done, come here. Hella something here today. For real, like who? Me and Chris was Bola come and get subs. Griffin, she says, and some of his friends. If you come, say hi to me. And he says, should we go take his shite? She says, LMAO, yeah. She says, grr, so gay. He says, so, who else is there with him? She says, a Muslim kid. Taco Bell's so busy, she said. That's what I was about to say. He says, I was going to say it, but there's so many people, we just trying to get out. What? Come. She says, I'm not busy and there's no one in line. He says, I'm about to get my food. She says, LOL, I see you. She says, I just looked and see your hair. Come over here when I get your food. He says, LOL. Okay, well, this is crazy, huh? What time is it? It's only 1:45. Okay. She says, I just seen a pup of curly hair and red. And I'm like, Dom, come over here soon. Where you at? He said, well, we left. There was hella people. She says, dang, okay. He says, I walked over, I grabbed napkins, you were too busy. She said, you should have said hey or something. LOL. Where are you at now, though? He says, she says, work's starting to be gay AF. Brett won't let me eat. He said, about to smoke a blunt. He said, you all really busy, just wait. She said, he gave everyone a break but me. Mall closes at 6, she says. Like I haven't ate all day and I'm pissed I'm pissed AF right now. He says, then go on your break. Maybe they have no one to cover for you, he says. She says, Blake is here. She says, I asked to go on my break and he literally said, I'm not getting my one today. She says, I am so effing mad. Then she said, like, and at 6, everything is closed. So, like, what can I get literally? Nothing. She says, I'm about to be home and I'll text you when I'm out of the shower. What are you doing? He said, I'm eating. She said, let me come over. She said, I have a ride, babe. Dom, LOL. He says, 1 second, let me see. She says, okay. She says, I gotta tell you some F shite, LOL. Babe, LOL. Just let me come. Okay, just come, he said. Okay, on my way. Then she says, what up, babe? Dom. He says, what up? She says, what are you doing right now? I'm going to go to the doctor today, she says. He says, in school? For what? Was your pee red again? She says, LMAO, no. She said, my stomach, like lower parts, is hurting so bad, like I can barely walk. He said, what if we all get chlamydia from Antonio? She says, LOL. He said, mine hurt really bad too. She said, I just heard about that too. She said, LMAO, Antonio. She goes, yeah, I'll let you know what happens. I'm in so much pain. He says, okay. She says, Gracie wants to sue Carl. She told us today. How? He said. Could anyone change Gracie? She says, the R thing. Yeah, but how would she sue him, he says. She says she screamed at him today for spreading it. She's saying it's not R. And then he says, he said he didn't get R'd. Carl doesn't even think he did anything with Gracie. She says, yeah, she told us that he's telling everyone it was R. She said, this effed. LOL, he says. She says, Carl's so dumb, LMAO. Look what I did. Unblock on Insta so I can send you a picture. I did, he said. Look, LOL. Babe, I feel really bad. Like I'm going to puke. She's saying this. And my stomach thing. I feel like I'm dying. He said, just puke and go to the bathroom. I felt like that this morning. She said, I can't move. I'm curled in a ball. I'm getting cramps that hurt so bad. I'm going now. Wish me luck. Be right back. What you going for? She says, I don't know. My cramps and pee. I haven't been able to move for 3 hours and I'm still getting repeated cramps. When I'm on the way back, want to chill? I'm getting food after. Then he said, I'm smoking with Kyle. She says, oh well, I'm just getting to the doctor. After I'm saying, I can bring you food. You want, yes or no? He says, oh, nah, we just chillin'. She says, oh, LMAO. Then she says, just let me know if you want something. I'm in line. Then he says, okay. And she says, LOL, too late. Now, I just ordered. And she says, me and Maddie, I made some TikToks. She said, watch them. She says, LMAO, answer my shite. Then she said, if you can talk to Maddie, you can't text me. Ha 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 ha. Then he said, what up? She said, with me and Maddie and I are bored. He said, my car got a flat tire. She says, no way. She says, then just have Kyle get us. She says, or we can get a ride. How? He says, and we going to get food right now? She says, Kat's mom is driving us. They just got us, she said. Carl's mom's car can just have a parked car. What the heck? No, we have a full car. Maddie's is far. He says, LMAO, I can always have my mom drop us off after you get food. Then he says, she says, where are you getting food? She said that one about, I could have my mom drop us off. And then she said, where are you getting food? And then she said, Dom, babe. He said, the mall. She said, answer about the first thing. Answer, Dom, LMAO. Then she says, Ite, you can just tell me yes or no, so I'm not sitting here wondering if me and Maddie found a movie. Like, it's really easy to text back. He said, I'm on 1%. He said, you can come over when I get home. She said, but save your percent till then. And me and Maddie will come. When you going to be home? He said, like 5 minutes. He said, I'm home. She said, okay. Okay, we coming. When are you getting here? It's getting late, he said. I'm about to be there, she said. We close. Good night, bae. Sleep good. I dropped my phone on the side of the bed, so I just woke up, he said. He said, wow, really? She said, wow, really? At least you didn't wake up too late. Want to get food when you're home? He says, my car has a flat. She says, oh, true. Want me to bring the food then? Wait, never mind. We can just DoorDash. He says, that's a lot of money, though, and it's harder to figure out what I want. True, she said. Want to just chill then? Yeah, he says, let me get home and see what I'm going to get done today and how I'm going to get it done. Okay, bet, she says. And then he says, I don't know what time if you want to chill, though. She says, it's cool. Just let me know when I'm with Maddie. Then he says, okay, for sure. She says, why mom gonna babysit one of Nick's kids? She says. She says, when I left, she asked my mom for my mom's number and one of the kids about to come 3 days a week. Which one? She says, I don't know yet. I wish it was all of them, LOL. What one? 7? Okay, hold on a minute. Let me see what's going on here. So, this is crazy, right? We're on page 2000 something. Welcome in, everybody. And if you're brand new, and I'm sure we have brand new people here, please subscribe and hit that bell for all notifications so that you're notified when we go live or when we load up a new video. That is, when did I start this? 11:30, 12:30, 1:30. So I've been reading text messages for over 2 hours. And that's a lot. Let's break it up with a little word game. We do this little word game. They were even doing word games. So let's break that up a little bit. We'll just do the daily. Oh my gosh, I gotta move my back a little bit. Okay. Daily puzzle. All right. Line. Live. Liven. Glenn. Jen is always there. There's never been a puzzle that had that, and it's never been there. Vine. Gel. I. Let's see. Lie. Lie. Let's see. Give. Okay. Vile. Evil. We did Glenn. living, good, video reel. Let's see. A leg, right? A vein. Yep. Okay, let's see. Vigil. Okay, yeah, it's good. Heart rate rise. In let's see what this is. Oh, given, yeah. Given. Okay. And give, we did. Given. Glenn, we did. Oh, Vale. That's good. Oh, lean. Let's see. Let's do a little. Up here, let me see. All right, guys, I am just too tired. I gotta go to bed. I did a lot of videos today. There's a lot of stuff you can watch. Okay, but I've got to get to bed. It's a shame we didn't make any of our goals there. I think those were some pretty small goals, and we could have had a documentary or something, not really too tremendous of a goal. But we'll see. Try again tomorrow. All right, everybody. Love you. God bless. Prayers. Everybody be good. We'll see you tomorrow. Like I said, there's a lot of content out there you can take a look at. I don't know where the heck I end this. Where's my Jane? Stop this. Here we go.